WebGME has an authentication and authorization model, and by default, when you start your deployment, it's turned off. And when it's turned off, it means that every client that connects is associated with the guest account, which typically is guest. And for smaller deployments, that's typically fine, but if you have more people working on it, you might want to be able to distinguish what rights the different users should have to different projects. And you also might want to track down who did what within a single project. So in order to do that, we can turn authentication on, or auth. And before doing that, it's very important to generate these RSA keys. So the authentication model is based on JSON web tokens, and they are generated and encrypted by the server. And we use an asymmetric scheme, so we have a private key for generating the tokens, and then we have a public key to decrypt them. And the reason for that is we want to be able to have different services generating tokens. And in that case, we will only let WebGME or the WebGME server know about the public key. So what happens when you turn on authentication is that it points to some pre-generated keys that are checked into the WebGME repo. So I'm not going to go through how to generate them. They're right here, but I just want to stress that it's very important to generate those. Otherwise, you're not safe in that case, because anyone can just generate the token. When we have generated tokens, what we do is we can enable it, the authentication, and then we set up the private key and the public key for the web tokens. And I'm going to show the authorization model, and we have built up a small model in WebGME. So basically, the authorization model works this way. So we have the concept of a project, and each project can be owned by a user base, and a user base can be an organization or a user. And so the own by relationship means that the user that owns it has rights to authorize other users for that project. And by authorizing, we mean assigning access rights to the projects. So that basically means you're allowed to read, write, or delete the project. And the model works that way. If you can delete it, that means you have read and write access too. So they are ordered in that sense. So on top of that, we have a concept of users, and we have organizations. So users, they're users, not too much to say about that, but organizations are groups or teams of users. And a user can either be a member or an administrator in the organizations. And an organization can have access rights and own projects just like a user. So what does it mean? So if we look at an example here, I think it's easier to actually explain this. So on this deployment, we have two projects, and this is coming from the Avengers movie. We have two projects. So one of them is Valhalla, and the other one is the Stop Loki. We have two users. We have Thor and Loki. So in this case, Thor owns the Valhalla project, and he has complete access to it, read, write, delete. Loki also has that, and the fact that Thor is the owner means that he can authorize other users to Valhalla. And in the concept of organizations, we have the Avengers, and being a member of an organization means that you inherit the access rights of that organization. So if Thor was just a member, or he is a member, that means that he also has read, write, delete access to this Stop Loki project. Organizations, they can own projects, meaning they can assign. You can't log in as an organization. However, the ownership is inherited, or is, yeah, you can say inherited if you want to, or is inherited to the admins of the organization. So since Thor is an admin of the Avengers, he can also authorize people to the project of Stop Loki. And that's basically the model. We have site admins too, and they basically have rights to everything. So that was the background.
So from the editor, you can go to the profile page by clicking on the user ID. And initially, it'll take you to the home page. It just has 3 blocks, and you can view projects. These are the ones you can view. You can sort them by which project is owned by which owner that you have rights to, and in each of the individual projects, you can see the collaborators that are users and organizations, and also where their rights are being inherited from. And for the users that have rights from themselves, you can revoke those rights, but if they're also getting rights from an organization, you won't be able to take away their rights directly. You'll have to remove that organization. And it also has the option to add any collaborators, and you can assign access rights. And as I said before, these rights are cumulative, so anyone with right to leave rights has read rights as well. And it also introduces the concept of transferring projects. So as long as you are an admin in another organization, as well as having delete access to the current project, you could transfer the project. And that would mean that the project, the organization the project is being transferred to is now the owner, and implicitly all the admins in that organization would have ownership. And there are also some visuals with displaying the commits by user, a timeline of when last committed and who is by, and kind of that. You can also view the organizations you currently are a part of, and as well as signing members or administrative rights for that organization. And you can also see the projects that you're collaborating on with that organization. And lastly, there's also a users page where you can see all the users on the deployment, and you can see their profile too. And as a site admin, which I'll log into right now, you have the option of editing all those users' profiles, as well as their password. And from these user pages, you can also update and add more site admins for your deployment. So you can add as a site admin, and now George would have full access to everything. Important thing about the site admin is that you have full read, write, delete access to every project. So all the projects on the deployment would be shown to you, as well as the organizations, and full access to add or authorize anyone to each project. And we also developed a mobile compatible version, which has slightly less features, but is still viewable. So if you go to your projects, you can see the list, and you can see the collaborators, and the usual to add collaborators and